Welcome to Scramble Game Show. I'm Ife Chang, your host of this program. In this summer, we have been interviewing people, mostly politicians, since the election is coming up in November. However, we're taking a break to go back to our education. We have just produced a show about high school science research program. This program should be of interest to many parents and students. In the first part of this program, we invited a few people talk about the particular program in Somers research, science research, and they have formed a foundation to support the research program. And if you have watched that, this is the continuation of the show. We have now invited several students who participated in this science research program. They will tell us their personal stories. So let's welcome them and hear their story, okay? Cassie, thank you for joining us. Dalia and Manisha, thank you for coming. And Greg, you again, and Jim. Okay, we'll have a quick self-introduction, then we'll get into the science research program. So start from Casey.
Okay, my name's Casey Zorin, and I am an 11th grade student at Somers High School. This will be my second year in the science research program.
I'm Dalia Laredo. I'm a senior in Somers High School. This is going to be my third and last year in the science research department.
I'm Manisha. I'm an upcoming junior in Somers, and this will be my second year in the Somers Science Research Program.
My name is Greg Horrace. I'm one of the two science research teachers at Somers High School.
And my name is Jim Laredo. I'm a member of the Somers Science Research Foundation and also the dad of Dalia here.
Very good. Welcome all, and we'll talk about your program, all right? And before you start, maybe I'll have Mr. Horrace just to have a brief recap. What is the science research program?
Okay, the science research program is a 3-year program at Somers High School, and the goal of the program is to have the students perform authentic science research, where ultimately they're going to enter their research in either the Intel or the Siemens competition their junior or senior year. Students enter typically as 10th graders, and during the first year, the 10th grade of the program, we teach them certain research skills, how to locate journal articles, outline journal articles, how to prepare posters, how to prepare a PowerPoint, and we teach them speaking skills to go along with it because ultimately they need to present their research. Students come in for a 1-year commitment, and at the end of that first year, they're invited back, and they come back the second year, sometimes presenting their research, sometimes depending upon what they're doing, they may have to go the entire junior year collecting their data and analyzing their data and present their senior year. The senior year, all seniors must present their research at several competitions throughout the year.
Very good. So we have 3 students here. I'm sure that you all have different programs. Maybe we'll let you sort of volunteer to be which one to be first. I have first question is, did you sort of start this program on your own voluntarily? Anybody wants to answer that question?
The actual class?
Yeah, how, you motivated yourself or somebody urged you into the program?
I actually didn't decide to do science research. My dad told me it was a good program and that I had to do it. And like for a while, I didn't really care. And when I really got into it and I finally got to do chemistry, which I had always thought was what I wanted to do, it got really exciting to actually be able to try out what I thought I wanted to do with my life. So once I realized that research wasn't what I thought it was, but that I liked it even more, that's when it was like my own accord, and it was really nice.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, for Somers students, their freshman year, like I had the choice of either going into like AP biology sophomore year or science research, and like at the beginning of freshman year, I kept thinking that I was going to go into AP Bio, but then one of my friends told me about the science research program, and it sounded really interesting, and so it was my choice to go into it, and once I got there, I loved it.
Very good. How about you?
Freshman year, near the end, generally Mr. Horrace and Mr. Malia come into our classes and they just give us an introduction of really what science research is, and I actually never thought of entering until I saw it, and it was really different than a lot of the classes I had taken, and I wanted to try something like that, and once I got there I loved it so much, and it became, like as Dalia said, it became one of my own passions and love.
Very good. So from your statements, looks like Horace, Greg, doing a great job in school, huh? You have students that hear your presentation, decide to enter the research program. So that's certainly a plus, okay? I mean, the problem sometimes is that if students do not want to do it, and then parents or teachers try to force students into a program, that's sort of a doomed failure to begin with, right? So let's now talk about each program you are doing. Again, let's start from the senior. Take your time, because this is not the competition. It's not 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or presentation. You take your time, talk about your program. What's the title? What's the domain? How do you get into it? What sort of significance?
It's proprietary.
Okay.
That's fine.
So my project is titled The Development of an Oil Filter that uses biowaste as the sorptive media. And the idea is that a lot of sorbents or filters that are used right now to clean up huge oil spills like BP are synthetic, so that once they're used, they're moved to a landfill where they can never be reused and they can never degrade. So I'm looking into what types of filters we can use, what types of biowaste, so materials that can't be used elsewhere for commercial value and can biodegrade could be used as a good oil filter. I had to do a lot of theoretical investigation into what made a ideal filter, and what I concluded by contrasting a lot of articles was that wool would potentially be a good filter. So I had to build an apparatus to simulate a small-scale oil spill, and I spent 5 weeks in a lab over the summer doing that and trying to ascertain a method of data collection. At the end of the 5 weeks, I hadn't really gotten anywhere, so I took it home and I had to recalibrate the apparatus and make sure that it was an accurate representation of an oil spill so I could test it. My filters, and then I also had to find a way that I could do data collection without a fancy spectrometer that I would have in a lab. So it was really hard because I did it from scratch, and I had my mentor backing me, but it was a lot of my own research. And then at the end, when I was able to finally test the filters that I had in mind, I was able to see that what happens is that we have third-class wool, which is an organic kind of wool that is more waxy because it's closer to the skin surface, so it absorbs a lot of the greases from the wool's natural biological processes. So these waxes are made up of sterile and waxy esters, which are able to form hydrophobic and polar bondings with the oil itself. So this wool is actually really effective on cleaning up large-scale oil spills.
Yeah, obviously you're really enthusiastic about your program, and certainly, and this is of course without posters you are presenting this. I can tell you have mastered your research.
Thank you. Right?
This is very good. All right, anybody else you want to start yours?
Okay, my project is the use of waste materials as feedstock in the design of a more efficient inverted downdraft gasifier, which basically I use a stove that I make out of cans, and I use different waste feedstocks such as municipal solid waste, which is just household garbage, and cow manure as a feedstock or like input material for the gasifier, and it will create then a gas that will allow for combustion, for a more full combustion process to occur. And the entire point of my project is so that in developing countries they can build their own stoves. That's why it's made out of cans, and they will get a more efficient process out of it.
I see. That's interesting. Have you done any, I mean, you're first year, so have you done any theoretical work as far as efficiency of this energy conversion?
I haven't really started the project as much as I would have liked to. I have built a couple gasifiers and I'm still having some trouble, so I haven't even collected my data yet.
Very good. Okay. Do you have a mentor now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Is it difficult to find a mentor?
It is. A lot of my mentor process didn't really work. So I emailed about 30 people probably, and
Wow.
I didn't get a single yes. And I ended up having a college professor from Mount St. Mary help me, and one of her students is actually doing gasification, so her student
Wow,
is
that's
working
lucky
with me.
for you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. How about Manisha?
I'm generally working in the area of neurology. So I actually didn't find out what I would be working on until like a month ago. So I'm working on right now some traumatic brain injury research, but like things are still going on, so there's like not much to say about it. So yeah.
But you have begun your literature research?
Oh, well, literature was all year around really, and then once I really found out about traumatic brain injury, I began reading more specifically into it.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Well, at this point, maybe I'll ask Dalia's parent. Okay. Looks like that you have sort of encouraged her to begin the process, right? Tell me a little bit about your experience.
So this definitely is for the students to do the research on their own. As much as I could do was to encourage her. But from my point of view, what I saw is this was very different than the traditional coursework they were engaging all the time. This was, I don't want to say unstructured, but it fits more with the real world, and it gives them more freedom. At the same time, they have to find their way, which is not something they do today every other course in the classroom, because the nature of what they need to do anyway. But by being on their own and having to work with someone and bounce ideas off, this is what we do in the real world. I'm an engineer, and that's what I do, and that's how to give them an opportunity to do this kind of work is very exciting for them, and I enjoy seeing them from outside.
Now, from a parent point of view, you probably talk to other parents. What do you think that generally what parents' attitudes are towards this program?
I've seen parents excited. I think in a way that's why we created the foundation. A lot of parents came together to help, so that group of parents really sees this as a great opportunity. I have had to convince parents to let them know that, yeah, there is work here, but I think it's different and a great experience for the kids. I've seen parents that worry about the workload the kid may have. Sometimes we need to let the kid decide if the workload is.
That's right, yeah. I think their capacity is really unlimited as far as I'm concerned. Teenagers' capacity is unlimited. But
and we see great results. So I think the effort has to be put on, but I think the program gives them freedom and some structure as well to go through the process to accomplish what they need to do and reach the different competitions.
So you do encourage parents to encourage children, right?
Definitely.
Right.
I think should be a must almost.
Right.
Not
So
sure we have the
Brad,
capacity, but
your view about parents, you think parents generally, at least in Somers area, that sort of respond to your call or your program?
When a student signs up for the science research course, there's a certain commitment that the parent takes on automatically, because students have a need to get transported from point A to point B. Sometimes when we have initial mentor meetings, I will go with the student initially to introduce the student and answer any questions the mentor may have. But we have students that travel distances to do their science research, and so getting back to the parent piece, every parent who's had a kid in the course has been very supportive of finding the time and the means and the energy to get the research done. I find that the Somers parents have been very supportive of the program.
That's great, yeah. Well, maybe I can ask the kids. Now, what sort of really give you the first opportunity, besides going to freshmen in a class, biology or so on, teachers tell you, early days, you all probably educated from Somers from elementary school on, are you? right? So have you exposed to science in any way that connects to this interest in science research? Anybody? You know, elementary school has science fair, correct? Even second grade, as I know now, they're doing science fair. So are these programs that sort of inducive or helpful to plant the seeds in your head?
When I was in 7th grade, I had a really fantastic teacher. Like, that was when I thought we're starting like real science was to be in middle school. And I actually have this really strange memory of thinking how cool it was that like photosynthesis uses its products for reactants and how like wasteless nature is. And when I like went on and I found out things like about how people go into the Amazon and like harvest plants so that when those plants are gone, we can still learn from them. I like learned all those tidbits like that from my teacher, and I kind of saw how science is really clever in the way that we're trying to learn from around us instead of the other way around, because there's so much in nature that's really perfect, and we
So a good teacher really inspires.
definitely.
Right, student, particularly science teacher. That's very good. Well, let me ask you a question somewhat differently. Now, when you sign up a program, the first thing is do literature research, right? Do you find that a interesting, exciting process, or you think it's very burdensome?
I love doing the literature in the summer because the first assignment that we get is to read, I think it was 4 just regular news articles and then 1 scientific journal article. And one of my news articles happened to be the story on how the U.S. government was putting in place a gasification system on one of the Army bases to use the municipal solid waste as their trash source, as their energy source, I mean. And so that got me so interested to the point where I actually wanted to do my project on it. Just reading about it sparked the interest in me.
Oh, that's good. And when you say you have to read first the news and then the journal article, presumably that sort of brings you to a different level. So how do you find reading a journal article different from reading a news article?
Journal articles, like each of them have their own vocabulary that you need to learn depending on what subject it is.
Yes.
So it's definitely, you're almost transported into this different world and you have to kind of acclimate to the new language. So it takes a while, but once you start learning your subject, each article gets easier and easier to read until you get like that aha moment one time when you read a journal article and you understand every word of it, which Dalia actually told me once at the beginning of sophomore year when I was complaining about it. I didn't understand a word of what was going on.
Wow, that's great. I mean, this is really, every science, every domain, there's a thesaurus. And mastering a thesaurus is a fundamental level of a researcher or a scientist has to be, because without that you cannot communicate with others, you cannot understand others, and then you cannot progress. So mastering this taxonomy is essential, really. So I'm glad that you enjoyed and you really latched on. Now, Manisha, so let me see whether I ask you a different question. How did you pick this brain research? Is any particular reason?
I actually have an opposite way than most people do. I actually came into science research with a very specific topic. One thing Mr. Horrace and Mr. Malia pointed out was you need to actually broaden your topic more when I came in, because they knew from the beginning that it's going to be very hard to find a mentor, especially if you
What was that? Can you elaborate a little bit, that specific topic?
I really wanted to look into how emotions and fear was created in the brain, and because to me, the brain is the core of your problems, right? So I really wanted to dig deep into that area. And then throughout the year, I just generally broadened my topic, and I actually found more interest in more neurology than neuroscience. Neurology is more like diseases and of your brain. So I, throughout the year, I was very focused on neuroscience and neurology. I never really considered changing it because I just loved the topic so much. I would read so many journal articles about it. But I did consider changing my topic because I wasn't having progress with mentors, but I still hung on to my topic, neurology and neuroscience, and I just kept pursuing it because that was something I really wanted to do.
So in this process, at what point you must sort of identify a specific, topic or title of the research?
Well, I'm going to answer this question based primarily on a student coming in as a sophomore.
Freshman. Yeah,
because, again, this course is open-ended to the point where if a student comes in as a junior, I treat them different. If a student comes in as a senior, I treat them different. So for the sophomores, their goal really by the end of the year is to have a topic and to have a mentor.
Right.
And you can keep searching and searching and searching and searching, and what you can find is you can spend all of your life searching, and eventually you've got to choose a topic. And so, at the end of the year, all of the sophomores have to present in something called the Westlake Science Fair. The Westlake Science Fair is typically June 6th on a Saturday. As they have all learned, I have them construct a poster by hand. And constructing a poster by hand takes a good solid 2 weeks of work, which they will all say is true.
More than that.
And so they really need to have a topic in place in order to design an experiment, probably by around April. And so that's kind of a deadline I have, but everything is very fluid, because if for some students you wait longer, it's more advantageous, and for other kids you kind of say, no, choose now. And it takes a certain amount of insight on the part of the instructor of the class to say, you need to be doing this now. And again, nothing is etched in stone, because, if you wanted to come back next year and tell me you're not interested in gasifiers anymore, as I was reading, I got turned on to this new topic, that's okay too. We have time to make those changes. And so, we do have some time restrictions. You work both ends towards the middle.
Right, certainly, yeah. The research sort of is open-ended work anyway, and also research is fundamentally dependent on curiosity. If you don't have curiosity, forget about doing research. And the way that is giving you a period of time is to expose yourself into a certain domain, and by learning, turn on that curiosity, the desire of finding this sort of knowledge solution to whatever that you were reading. That's the process that eventually narrows down to a topic. So I guess you're absolutely right.
Sometimes it expands out, because as the student starts to read, it leads to more
certainly
questions
your curiosity
and new
can
ideas.
Expand. You would initially have limited knowledge to begin with. When you gain more knowledge, your curiosity so can branch out to different areas. So I think this whole process, doing research, definitely is an open-ended and definitely is a challenging process. And it does require your own commitment and some persistency, right, to pursue. Agree? If you say easily give up in 2 weeks, and then you probably won't be able to come to this program. Correct? Yeah.
Well, you can come to the program. As to whether you'll be happy with it, again, it's structured and not structured. It's
the persistence is required, though.
Yes, you have to have a certain spark in you, a curiosity, to be successful in research. I mean, it's much easier when you ask your parents, what's the answer? The questions these students are asking, the answers aren't there. They've got to find them themselves, and I think that's the spectacular part of this program.
Right. Jim, you as a parent, you may have a slightly biased opinion, because your daughter is doing very well, is graduating and enjoying the program and so forth, but I still like to ask the question, when a parent watching, say, your child enter this program, any anxiety, anything that you feel that you can share with us?
As parents, we feel the same anxiety they get too, especially as they approach the competition. I don't think we see all the steps that are going behind the scenes. do we see the binder grow and all the different things happen. But when the competition comes, I think the poster gets real, the practices start to happen, even we as part of the foundation, we help them rehearse. And that, I think, is when we see everything come together. And I think that, for me, that was when it got a little more anxious. And we would, listen to them, listen to her, and see how she was doing, give her some feedback. So
that's very good. As a member of the Science Research Foundation, we did have a discussion before, but I don't think we had enough time to go into some issues. One issue is that helping students to find mentor, right? That's seemed to be a key challenge because geographically in Westchester we have more people in the money business than science and research. So unfortunately that seems to be the case. So therefore you don't have the population to support science research as in other county, other state perhaps. So what do you suggest for the foundation, say, if now you have started to sort of focus on from now on?
I would hope that the statistics are there to support us. I think there is quite a high density of research labs and hospitals and pharmaceutical companies. So I'm hoping we can find there. I think most important is to get the word out and get in contact with people that may be interested in helping the students. I think to the mentors I've talked and Dalia's mentor and other mentors, it is a rewarding experience. So in some cases it's just a matter of getting people engaged and to see what it is about and teach as well what we expect from them. I think as we do that more, we may get more people interested and give more choices to the kids.
Yeah, maybe Dalia, you could share with us when you work with mentor, what do you get from mentor? What do you think you have actually given back to mentor in a sort of a research partner basis?
Well, I think the most valuable thing a mentor can do is be honest with you. Because I remember getting really frustrated when things weren't working out, and she was just like, that's research. And I remember being like, oh, that's research. And I was kind of taken aback by like the fact that it is really a lot more trial and error and accepting that it's not going to work out the first time. So going around saying that was what I wanted to do wasn't enough. Her actually telling me like, it's not that easy, and telling me that I could have shadowed an undergrad, or I could have I could have followed someone's past procedure, but that wouldn't really be what research is. Like, it would have been easier, and maybe the judge wouldn't have known, but it wouldn't get the real experience, because I wouldn't have the feel of how much you have to fail to actually know what you're doing. And so I think that was the best thing she gave me, was showing me what I was really getting myself into and not sugarcoating it. And I don't know, you get a really good experience out of it.
So
You
it's
learn a
fair
lot
to
about
say
yourself.
that for mentors that it's not so much setting expectation, rather is to encouraging the whole process, right?
Yeah.
And what did you give back to the mentors?
I don't know.
Smile.
I don't know.
I know she was happy when she did well. So
Right. Well, I'm sure you did, because I think personally, although I'm not yet a mentor of any student in Somers, but being a research scientist myself, I knew that being asked to help itself is very satisfying. You can call it ego, you can call it anything, but if anybody asks you to help in a serious way, I think that's a feedback you really want, particularly in the domain you are either expert in. I think mentors enjoy that. So you do give back to the mentors, and if anybody says, well, I don't want to bother with high school kids, they don't know anything, I think those are narrow-minded. I wouldn't call them really genuine scientists, okay? If you're a scientist, you have to know people really don't have any setting, say, well, I can invent, I can discover, I can create. sometimes even few-year-old can trigger something that a seasoned scientist didn't think of. So I think that feedback process definitely is worthwhile. What about you? You any experience with mentor? How do you see mentor giving you and you give back to mentor?
Well, in my specific case, my mentor doesn't know a lot about my project specifically. So she's given me a lot of feedback on how to present, like when we
More
have our
general
competitions.
research.
Yes.
Yeah,
But then her student has helped me a lot during the process when I've been building my gasifiers, because though I may think my design will work, he's done it so much and he gives me so much feedback when I'm doing it, but yet he still allows me to work on it myself and give me that space.
Good. That, in a way, give you, shortcuts. That's another thing about research is that to find shortcuts. And if you're always going the long way, first of all, you get frustrated. Secondly, you take a lot longer time to reach whatever goal or results. So the shortcuts come from where? Come from people that already experienced. So you do want to find people that have that experience and communicate and somehow inspire you, right? So that since this student helped you a lot, does this student gain anything from you?
I'm sure it helps him to teach me as well,
Yeah.
because he's learning more about the process, and when we do the experiments together, he learns more about how to fix his own gasifiers and improve his own project.
Very good, yes. Well, how about you?
I mean, I feel like at the same time when you are the scientists that you may be working with, let's say, you have that one-on-one experience, which I think is very valuable, because there's such a big difference of like having someone oversee you whereas someone who is actually working with you, because you can tell that if they teach you if they're starting to teach you, then they actually really know